Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. We are going to solve mechanical metallurgy question in GATE 2014. The first question is the respective units for dislocation density and stress intensity factor are. So first we have dislocation density. Dislocation density is called as number of dislocation per unit area, or it is also called as total length of dislocation per unit volume. Okay, so if we take this one, then it will be 1 by meter square, right? Because number will be 1, so it has got no unit. Now total length of dislocation, so it will be length divided by something length cube, because volume will be length cube. So ultimately the unit will be 1 by L square. Fine. Now second we will see for stress intensity factor. Intensity factor. Okay, we know stress intensity factor, that is K equal to sigma root over pi a, right? This is the formula. Fine. When this is the formula where sigma is the stress, so stress has got MPa, right? Or Pascal you can take. Fine. And pi a is the crack size, so it will be of meter, so root over meter means meter half. Fine. So guys, see, this matches with this one, 1 by m square, that is m minus 2. See, option C will be the correct answer. Now let us proceed. A tensile specimen was deformed at a constant crosshead speed of 6 mm per minute. The strain rate at the start of the testing was 5 into 10 power minus 3 per second. The initial gauge length of the specimen was. Now suppose initially the length was L or L naught, let us take. And what is the strain rate? And here the strain rate is 5 into 10 power minus 3 per second. Yes. So all are given as engineering strain rate, because this strain, it does not talk about the true strain. So that means it is of engineering strain rate. Okay. And the crosshead velocity 6 mm per minute. That means when a tensile specimen is there and we are pulling it by application of some force, then the crosshead velocity, crosshead is something here through which this one is hold. So this is moving at a velocity of 6 mm per minute. Okay. So we know strain equal to delta L by L. So delta L, change in the length. So L final minus L initial by L initial. L initial is how much it is? We have taken as L naught. Okay. So let us take L naught. So L naught. Okay, fine. Now strain rate. calculate strain rate, we'll divide with velocity. So this implies LF minus L naught by L naught into time. Sorry, we'll divide with time to calculate strain rate. So delta L by T will be nothing but velocity. So it will be velocity by initial length. So strain rate, it is given here 5 into 10 power minus 3 equal to velocity. Velocity, it is given as 6 mm per minute. Okay. So let us change this minute into second. So 1 minute has got 60 seconds, right? And L naught, let it be L naught. Okay. So after this calculation, we will get L naught in mm only. Fine. Next is L naught is equal to 1 by 10 into 5 into 10 power minus 3. That means 1 by 5 into 10 power minus 2. That is 100 by 5. It means it is 20 mm. Right? So this is your answer. Now let us proceed. Which one of the following refers to the ability of a material to absorb energy when deformed elastically? If you see a stress strain diagrams, it somewhat looks like this. This is the elastic region. So it is asking about the energy when deformed elastically. So up to this elastic point, whatever the area under this curve is basically the absorbed energy, right? So this is called as resilience. Fine. When this complete graph up to the fracture, we calculate the area, right? Then this is called as toughness. Fine. So here the answer will be resilience. Okay, good. Now next question. Two identical engineering components are made from alloys X and Y. The KIC of alloy X is greater than that of Y. If these components are subjected to the same stress during operation under mode 1 loading, which one of the following statements is true? Okay, so KIC for X, you know KIC is equal to sigma root under pi A. Okay, so this will be A for X alloy. Now KIC for Y alloy, we'll write sigma pi AY. Yes, and here it is given KIC of X is greater than KIC of Y. That means sigma root under pi AX is greater than sigma root under pi AY. It means AX will be greater than AY. That means the crack size in the case of X can be greater than Y. So component made from an alloy X can tolerate a larger flow size. Yes. So here the larger flow size can be tolerated. Next option, component made from alloy Y can tolerate a larger flow size compared to no. Both can tolerate same flow size? No, because KIC is different. None of the above. So this is also not the correct answer. So what is your correct answer? Option A. Fine. Now, next one. A steel rod was subjected to a fluctuating stress cycle that varied between a maximum of 400 MPa in tension to a minimum of 300 MPa in compression. What is the stress amplitude in ampere? Guys, now this is the stress application, the fluctuating stress application. It goes to maximum of 400. Suppose this is 400 ampere, right? And it goes to the minimum of 300 ampere. It will be in minus, it will be in plus. So the variation is something like this. Okay, the variation is something like this. We have got sigma max equal to 400 ampere, sigma mean equal to minus 300 ampere. So here it is asking about a stress amplitude. That means this distance divided by 2. Like suppose this is the baseline where it oscillates. So that is the thing we have to calculate, this distance. Okay. That can be calculated by first to calculate the range sigma max minus sigma mean, then divided by 2. 400 minus 300, that is 300 by 2. 700 by 2, it is 350 ampere. Fine. Yes, clear? Okay. Now let us proceed. Now we'll discuss 2 marks question. The first one you see here. Question number 27. A tensile specimen was deformed to a true strain of. Here it is giving true strain of 0.405. The change in the gauge length was 5 mm. The final gauge length of the specimen in mm is. Okay. The change in the gauge length was 5 mm. Fine. Suppose this was the specimen. So after this application, the true strain will represent the epsilon, right? It is 0.405. And what is the change in the gauge length? That is dl is equal to 5 mm. Fine. The final gauge length of the specimen in mm is, right? So true strain we know it is ln lf by li, right? Or if we go to the basic principle, it is called as dl by l, l naught to lf. Fine. Okay. So strain value 0.405 ln lf means the final gauge length. We don't know the final gauge length, but here it is given the change in the length. So we can write it as l naught plus 5 mm. Let the initial length be l naught. Fine. Then divided by l naught. Clear? So it can be written as l naught by 5 by l naught is equal to e to the power 0.405. Okay, do this calculation. Let me do. So it is 1.499. Okay. Now from this we have to calculate L naught, right? So this implies L naught plus 5 is equal to 1.499 L naught. Okay. So 5 is equal to 1.499 minus 1 L naught. So L naught equal to 5 divided by 0.499 means it will be 10.02. This will be your initial length. Okay. In the question it is asking about the final gauge length. So LF. So LF will be N naught plus the change in the length, that is 5. So 10.02 plus 5, it will be 15.02. Right guys? Okay. And this will be in mm. Now let us solve next question. Dissociation of a dislocation into two partials in an FCC metal is given by the following equation. A by 2 1 1 bar 0 is giving A by 6 2 1 1 1 2 1 bar 1, then 1 A by 6 1 2 bar 1 bar. On which plane do these two partial dislocation lie? So it is asking about these two partial dislocation. On which plane it lies? What is the condition to lie on a plane? The condition is that the dot product of the direction to the perpendicular direction of the plane will be 0. Fine. Okay. So we will use the method of eliminating the option. So we'll first see for the case of this. So we will do the dot product with this one and see whether it is 0 or not. You see the first one, it will be minus 1 minus 2, then minus 1 plus 1. So it is minus 2. So this is not the correct one. Let us see for B. So 2 minus 1 then plus 1. No. So here it will be remaining 2. So this is also not the correct one. Let us see option C. It is 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. This is also not the correct one. You can see here it will be, if I multiply here, it will be 2 minus 1 2 minus 1 minus 1. 2 minus 2 equal to 0. Okay, this is satisfying. And for the second case, let us check again. It will be 1 minus 2 plus 1. So yes, so 2 minus 2, it will be again 0. So the correct answer will be option D. Right? So you just have to take the dot product. Fine. Next, what is the hydrostatic stress for the state of stress represented by sigma ij given below? So this is the sigma ij, and here it is asking about the hydrostatic stress. Okay, so hydrostatic stress basically is called as, suppose a material is there, so when we put it into water, then what happens, at every surface the stress value is same. Okay, now to calculate hydrostatic stress means what is the amount of stress. Sigma hydrostatic is sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z by 3. This is a simple formula, right? Now if you put sigma x, sigma y and sigma z over here, then you can see 100 plus 125 plus 75 divided by 3. So it will be 100, 225, then 75, 300 by 3. It is 100. Okay, the unit is not given, so it will be 100 only, right? The answer will be 100. Okay, now let us move. A body starts yielding when it is subjected to a stress state with a principal stress of 250 MPa. 50 MPa minus 50 MPa. What is the yield strength of the material in MPa? Tresca yield criterion is obeyed. Okay, so we'll see here. The principal stresses are like sigma 1 is equal to 250 MPa, sigma 2 is equal to 50 MPa, and sigma 3 is equal to minus 50 MPa. Okay, these are the principal stresses. That's why I have written sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3. Now if we apply the Tresca condition, the So Tresca conditions come as sigma naught equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3, right? And this comes from the derivation like we have got tau max is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, right? So in the first case we take the unique cell tension, we took sigma 1 is equal to some value, that is sigma naught, and sigma 2 and sigma 3 are 0. So that means it can be equal to sigma naught by 2. So sigma naught by 2 is equal to sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2. From here we come to know, okay, fine. So sigma naught will be 250 minus of minus 50. So it will be 300. It is given in ampere, so it will be an ampere. Okay, fine. Yes, let us proceed. A rod of a metal with Young's modulus of 200 GPa is pulled in a tension to a stress of 400 MPa. What is the elastic strain that is recovered when the rod is completely unloaded? Okay, so here suppose it is a rod and we are pulling it in tension. Okay, so during pulling a stress strain curve will be there. Now here the Young modulus, it is given as 200 MPa. So let us write it as 200 MPa. And it has been taken to a stress state value of 400 MPa. Now this is the 400 MPa. Now, so what happens? Suppose at this point, when load will be removed, then some elastic recovery takes place. So this will follow the path which is parallel to this elastic line. Fine. When it follows the path to this elastic line, then the final length of the specimen remains as this one. So this is the recovery, right? Now this value is 400 MPa. Fine. And the slope of this line is nothing but the Young modulus, that is 200 GPa. So we have to calculate what is this value, this strain. Suppose let it be E recover. Okay. So we'll find tan theta here. So tan theta is equal to 400 by this E recover, and we know tan theta is nothing but the Young modulus here, or the slope. Okay, so it will be 200 GPa equal to 400 MPa by E recover. So E recover is equal to 400 by 200, and here it will be in MPa, so 10 power 6, and here it will be in GPa, so 10.9. So 2, it is 2 divided by 1000. Okay, so this is strain, but it is asking in strain percentage, so we will multiply with 100, so it will be 0.2 percentage. Fine. Or you can simply remember the elastic recovery which takes place is equal to the sigma max, means the sigma which is over there, divided by the elastic modulus. Okay, this is a simple formula which directly comes from using this equation. Okay, now let us move. Match the following strengthening mechanism in metallic alloys with typical mechanism responsible for them. The first one is the grain size strengthening, then work hardening, dispersion strengthening, then solid solution strengthening. Now, first is the grain size strengthening. That means when we decrease the grain size, the strength increases. So why it increases? The first initial grain size is suppose this one, and we have decreased the grain size. So what happens? The effective grain boundary area decreases. So when some dislocations move due to application of force, then this location come together to this grain boundary, and this grain boundary does not allow the movement, so dislocation pileup happens. So with that mechanism it helps to strengthen, so it will match with 4. Next is the work hard. So what happens when we apply, suppose this is the specimen and we are applying some force, then what happens? Whatever the dislocation which moves, then it is seen that it breaks into two partial dislocation. So during this work hardening process, what happens? There is a formation of partial dislocation or some other kind of dislocation which interact with them, and they lie on some different plane, and that's why they do not allow do not allow the movement. That is nothing but the Lomer Cottrell barrier. Okay, because Lomer Cottrell type of dislocation is formed, and that acts as the barrier. Third is the dispersion strength. Suppose this is the matrix and we have added some dispersion. So dispersion are different phase material. So what happens? This is the different phase material. So this acts as a particle. So when some kind of dislocation move, so we know when dislocation move, suppose it is not able to cut it, then it will bend, it will curl over here, or it will form a loop. So this loop is called as Oron looping. Okay, so this will match with 1. Then solid solution hardening. So solid solution hardening will match with Suzuki interaction. It means the interaction between substitutional solid solution and the atom which is of solvent. One is the solvent and one is the solid. The interaction which happens, there are many interactions. There are like elastic interaction, anelastic interaction, one is the Suzuki interaction. So it comes from the solid solution. Okay, so see the option. P will match with 4, Q will match with 3, R matches with 1, S matches with 2. So see. Now next question. Determine the correctness or otherwise of the following assertion and reason. Peak aging time for an aluminum 4% 4 weight percent copper alloy is indicated by a maximum in the hardness. Yes, this is the aging curve. Right. This is hardness versus time. So this is the peak hardness indicated by maximum peak aging time. Okay, so this is the corresponding aging time will be peak aging time. Fine. The maximum volume fraction of theta precipitate is formed at the peak aging time. So we will see here. Up to this point, this is called GP zone, right? Up to this point, it is theta double dash. then to this point it is theta dash, then in the final it is theta, that is Cul2, right, for copper aluminum. So here it is asking that for fraction of the theta is found at the aging time, but at the aging time we have what theta dash, there is no theta, so this statement is false and this is true. So A is true and but R is false. Yes, this can be the answer. A is false but R is true. No, both A and R are true and R is the reason for A. No, because R is false. So here also this will not be the answer. Fine. Let us proceed. The flow curve of an annealed metal is expressed as sigma equal to 200 epsilon 0.25, where sigma is in ampere. If a rod of this metal is subjected to a true strain of sigma is equal to 0.3 by extrusion, the ideal plastic work of deformation per unit volume is. Okay, so it is specifically asking in terms of extrusion. So suppose this is the die. In case of extrusion, right, now it has got some dia, and after this extrusion, we are getting some different dia. Right? We had got initially A naught and AF. Here it is saying that by application of some force, that is by extrusion, the true strain value is 0.3. That means true strain is L naught A naught by AF. Fine? Yes, and it is equal to 0.3. And the stress straight, the flow curve, basically there will be deformation. The flow curve of an annealed metal is expressed. So here the stress which is acting is given as sigma is equal to 200 epsilon 0.25, right, where sigma is in ampere. If a rod is subjected to a true strain by extrusion, the ideal plastic work of deformation. So we have to calculate the plastic work of deformation. So for this type of problem, the work of deformation will be sigma dE and initial to final. So we'll integrate the sigma, the stress value, with respect to the strain, because what happens, the strain is causing deformation up to this point, right, from starting from here to this point. So we integrate total deformation here and we multiply with the strains, right, then it will be 200 epsilon 0.25 G. First is the 0 and it reaches to 0.3. So this implies 200 epsilon 0.25 plus 1 divided by 0.25 plus 1, and we will, the maximum limit is 0.3. Now if you do this calculation, now do it. Yeah, so the work done will be 35.52, and let us check the unit because it is given in megapascal. Okay, so it will be megajoule per meter cube. Fine. Okay guys, so now let us proceed. A glass fiber reinforced epoxy composite is made with 60 weight% unidirectional continuous glass fiber. The elastic moduli of the glass fiber and the epoxy matrix are 72.5 and 2.4 GPa respectively. What is the elastic modulus of this composite along the fiber direction in GPa? The densities of glass fiber and epoxy are given as 2.58 and 1.14. For this type of problem, first you just draw schematic. This is the matrix and we have got fibers, right? These are the fibers. And what is the weight percent of fiber? The weight percent of fiber, it is given as 60 weight percent. Fine. So weight percent of matrix will be 40 weight percent. Okay. And density, right? Density of fiber, it is given as 2.58 gram per cm cube. Fine. And density of matrix, it is given as 1.14 gram per centimeter cube. Okay. And elastic modulus of fiber is given as 72.5 and elastic modulus of matrix is given as 2.4. And guys, here it has been asked to find the elastic modulus of this composite along the fiber direction. So this is the fiber direction and we have to apply the force in this fiber direction. What is the formula for that? EC is equal to volume fraction of fiber into elastic modulus of fiber plus volume fraction of matrix into elastic modulus of matrix. So here, from here we can see we have to calculate volume fraction, right? But here it is given weight percentage and the density. That means the amount of weight, means what is the quantity in terms of weight it has been given, right? So guys, we know density equal to mass by volume. So volume we can calculate using this mass by density. So weight, it has been given, that is nothing but the mass, fine, by density. Okay, so we will do this here. We'll take for fiber. Okay, now suppose we take for fiber, the weight is given as 60 weight percent. So let us suppose this is of 100 gram. So it will be of 60 gram, right? 100 gram of composite it is there, right? So volume of fiber will be, here we will calculate first volume of fiber. Volume of fiber will be 60 divided by the density. What is the density? 2.58. 2.58. Okay, so let us calculate. 60 divided by 2.58. So it is 23.25 cm cube. So similarly, for matrix, weight is given as 40 gram. So volume of matrix will be 40 divided by density. Density is how much? 1.14. So we calculate this 40 divided by 1.14. So it will be 35.08. Right? So if we want to calculate the fraction of fiber, the volume fraction of fiber, that is PF, so it means volume of fiber divided by volume of fiber plus volume of matrix. Okay, so it will be 23.25 divided by 23.25 plus 35.08. It will be how much? Let me calculate. It will be 0.398. Okay, so V of matrix will be 1 minus 0.398, that is 0.601. Okay, Okay, fine. So E of composite, if we calculate, it will be volume fraction of fiber, it will be 0.398 into 72.5 plus 0.601 into this 2.4, right? Now if you do the calculation, 0.398 into 72.5 plus 0.601 into 2.4, it will be 30.29. Answer will be in GPA, right? So this is your answer. Okay, so hope this will help you for your GATE preparation. And during watching this kind of video, please keep a calculator also with you. Okay, thank you.